When I first saw JAZZistry, I was amazed by how it changed me. I was left with a feeling that just by being American, I had a relationship to jazz. I saw jazz in our American culture. I saw jazz as a mirror to our history. All of us involved in JAZZistry believe in the importance of that kind of connection. And we want more Americans, especially young Americans, to experience that, discover it, and value it for themselves.
To teach the history of jazz and not the history of our country is almost impossible.
Vincent did an artist in residency at Community High. He was with us for 4 years, and we came to know him very well.
He's been on the road with some of the biggest bands in the country, the world-renowned Duke Ellington Band. In fact, I first met him when he first came off the road from the Duke Ellington Band. And we talked a lot about teaching young people.
Vincent worked with teachers of every subject area in our school to infuse this into the curriculum.
I am a jazz musician. Jazz is my passion. JAZZistry came about because I realized I couldn't expect to hold the attention of young people unless they knew what to listen to. I knew I could teach jazz. I knew I could make it relevant to them. In 1994, I set these ideas into motion. By 1997, I had named it JAZZistry. It works. It works not only because we perform, but we tell a story. It's the story of our American history. Not just mine, not just yours, but all of ours. JAZZistry is a history lesson, a geography lesson, and a music lesson combined. For example, we do this when we play a work song to demonstrate how African slaves used the call and response tradition. With our PowerPoint presentation, we use a map to show how we trace this tradition from West Africa to the New World. Then, we talk about how the tradition evolved as the music grew up through the decades.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Next we carry jugs of water. Yeah, 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 yeah. Then we pound the yellow corn. Yeah, 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 yeah. Then we stir our pots of mush. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
By 1871, the spirituals were popularized by a group, the Jubilee Singers of Fisk University. In remembrance of that group, we would like to play an old spiritual for you.
Throughout JAZZistry, the music is explained by the historical events that shaped it. When Protestant hymns were taught to slaves in an effort to save their souls, a new musical form was created, spirituals, and the Jubilee Singers gave white America their first glimpse through spirituals of the lives of Black Americans.
A beautiful sound, a beautiful registered, like a big bass baritone voice, and but it also had the percussive qualities of a drum, so the march came inside with it too, and what we now know is the walking bass, which didn't happen all of a sudden. At first they played the bass just like they played the tuba, but over time they started walking. And first they would just walk on one note, you know, the root of the chord. Then today it's different.
JAZZistry is so much more than just an exciting school assembly. In our partnership with classroom teachers, we can share resources and tools to help them extend the use of the arts across the curriculum because it's such a great way to engage students more fully in understanding how times have changed across American history.
The train is running out of gas.
There is a precious and subtle quality to JAZZistry that is why I believe it is successful with students and audiences. And that is, it is live jazz music performed by professional musicians. We all have our collection of recordings, but regardless of genre, we find that it is a much more rewarding experience to participate in a live performance. For students, this might be their first exposure to jazz. And that live jazz performance is why it is such a successful program, not only on an educational, but at an emotional level.
Bebop. Now, bebop was a style of music that was forged out of the swing era in the early 1940s by young musicians such as John Birch Gillespie, you know, the guy with the big cheeks, Charlie Yardbird Parker. They called him Yardbird because he liked to eat chicken, fried chicken. Trombonist J.J. Johnson, who came on a little later. And this music was embarked upon these young musicians in New York City around the early 1940s. These musicians would congregate in jazz clubs to experiment with these new, fast, fluid melodies and complex harmonies. Like, for instance, John Birch Gillespie's tune entitled Night Tunisia. Check this out. I'm going to demonstrate for you. I'm going to use what we call a cup mute for a sound effect. So check it out.
JAZZistry is a musical, multicultural time machine. It demonstrates and explains how American culture has come together over time through the weaving together of various ethnic and cultural groups and how they've influenced each other. As a thematic approach in studying American history, it really works for students because it's based on one of the world's great treasures, American music. But it also explains and demonstrates some of the most complex aspects of culture, like how the arts have always sprung from, described, and influenced the time in which they were produced. It also celebrates some of the great American core values, like the power of diverse voices and approaches, the strength through creativity in our country, and the importance of free expression.
In Jamaica, a British colony, Ashantis worked the fields over 200 years ago. Their music gave us Rastafarian drumming, ska, and reggae. A little reggae for you. 1, 2, 3. Trinidad, West African traditions like ridicule songs gave us calypso. You might recognize this Harry Belafonte hit.
Yeah, Eddie Harris. Oh yeah, they call it Freedom Jazz Dance.
In JAZZistry, music is the hook. It's an invitation to young people to open up their minds, view their own history from a bigger perspective, and find their place in it. You haven't seen the animated faces of our audiences or felt the excitement that a live performance brings, but it's a guarantee. JAZZistry is unique. It's a unifying message about an American art treasure and a legacy for which we can all feel grateful.
And that concludes our program. And at this time, we usually open it up for